Hello and welcome to another episode of Deprogrammed. I am your host, Keri Smith. I'm very excited about my interview today. My guest is a musician. He's an electronic musician and the creator of the hugely popular goth industrial band, the Gothsicles. He's also the host of a podcast called The Space Couch. And in late 2023, he was the subject of maybe one of the biggest cancellation mobs I've read about recently, which resulted in many consequences, including his gigs being canceled, also a divorce and having to move. Um, I'm very grateful that he's here to talk with us about this, and I hope that you'll help me in welcoming Brian Graupner. Hello, Brian.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much, first of all, for being here with us and being willing to relive some of this and talk through it. I think it's really important to, I don't know, to put a personal face to some of these stories.
Okay.
So I'm very grateful.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. And I'm really excited. This is really big for me.
You have, as I said in the intro, I went down a rabbit hole of your cancellation, and I think it may be one of the worst that I've read about recently. Can we just back up before we get into that? Can you tell people a little bit more about what it is that you do, how you started your band or music project, the
Mhm.
Gothsicles? And because I think it's very unique. What you did is kind of comedy, but also industrial music. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that caps it pretty well. Like it's really like I'm a pretty weird guy, and so this music project came out. Um, like I always really liked like industrial bands. And forgive me if I talk out of class. I live in goth world, so I use if my vocabulary goes off the beaten path, let me know. But I always really liked like industrial music, so like hard dance music, basically. But I know I never really had like heretofore a major horrible tragedy. Like you could never sing about being in a war or being a vampire or whatever. But I knew how to get 30 guys in Contra or like animals that I like. So it was just this really geeky industrial band that should not have worked, but then it ended up like really working. Like it got more popular than I could have ever dreamed as a lad in like undergrad at
Now,
UW Madison.
to be clear for anyone listening, industrial, for those of us who don't listen to industrial a whole lot or maybe haven't listened to it,
Mhm.
you say hard, it's got is it related to metal? I mean, I've listened to it.
Yeah, like you sort of tread troubled waters whenever you do music genre
Oh,
talk.
no.
And I'm sure I'll get it like that's not what it is.
Is yeah,
From really like 9 Inch Nails is going to be the go-to band.
okay.
Um, Seminal industrial act. It's now he's won Oscars, so who knows? But th-
But
like
so your music would be kind of like if Nine Inch Nails sang about animals.
yeah, but like real dance, like they sort of change it up. This would be like real kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah, but animals that I like, or like video games, and just geek stuff. Moon Knight and Aquaman, and yeah, it was just anything that would just move me at the time. But yeah, the last album I did was called Animal Song, so it was all about animals that I liked.
That's some of the videos I saw. So, when you started it, was it kind of a joke?
Yeah, it was when I started it basically I just kind of wanted to be on the fringes of that scene. Like, and I think my goal at the time was just to get into industrial shows for free. I mean, I was like a kid. And it just kind of like people really dug it because like goths are nerds basically. So it really worked.
And so you said, it's a thing that never should have taken off, but it did. you eventually were playing festivals around the world. Is that right?
Yeah, it's crazy to be backstage with like the guys that influence you to start, and they're like, "Hey, I like your last album." You're like, you should know who I am. Like, the German guys who I worship, come up to go, "Hello, you are the Ottoman." Ah, um, and like, I hope somebody likes us in Finland, and then we go into Finland. There's a million people singing along, and this is really weird. But like, yeah, it all over. It was uh, Iceland, and Scotland and Mexico, and it's just crazy stuff.
So, with all of the success, I'm gonna tell you, I am a noob. I'm probably gonna piss off all the music nerds because
Oh,
I
you're
don't really listen
fine.
to industrial. However, I did recognize in your bio, KMFDM. So I
Okay,
did
yeah,
listen to some of that when I was younger.
okay.
So you ended up with the success, you started a record label, you worked
Y-
with that band among others, is that right?
yeah, yeah. On the periphery, yeah.
Okay.
The kind of almost as just a reaction to the whole label scene, the whole indie record label scene. I just sort of started like this thing that I called Tiger Squawk Records, and it grew into like this family. Like it really was amazing, and sort of the biggest thing we did was joint release. Uh, and Ash, the one of the two lead singers, it's a weird relationship, in KMFDM with his paramour, Mona Moore, they put on a remix album that has the Tiger Squawk stamp on it. And
Nice.
that was a big day. People were like, "Are we label mates with Ed Ash?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude!" Like, that was a fun day at Tiger Squawk.
So, I wanna get into and tell me if I'm getting there too fast, but I know this is gonna be a long story, so can we get into the cancellation and
Yeah, yeah,
what started it? The way that you described it in your piece is, I think I think, brilliant because it's literally it was started through guilt with association. Can you tell us about that?
yeah. I listened to the wrong podcasts, basically, and I wish there was more meat on that bone, but I mean that's it. And um, when I say the wrong podcast, I'm talking about like Ben Shapiro, nothing like off the wall. Uh, and it basically resulted in my divorce. Um, and there was an intervention with my parents and like childhood friends, like big, and a big air quotes, big industrial bands are like, y- you know, telling me, like, sending me these bonkers emails, and like, what? I'm just listening to ideas, and so that sort of set the ball rolling, and I did, because I can't sit still and have to keep like a million plates spinning. I had this uh, uh, show. I call it a TV show just because it works, but it's like an internet show. It's like exactly what we're doing now, and it was an exciting idea at the time, and then the pandemic started, and then it just became like everything.
Mhm.
Um, but I got on the space couch thing. I was interviewing like just heroes like attrition and like my wife at the time and I watched this documentary on like Dungeons and Dragons art, and then they were on the show like 2 weeks later, like just crazy stuff. And there was this comic book I like called Made in Korea, and I got to interview that guy. And,
Yeah.
like just all over the road, and it was got to find out just these just crazy stories, and meet people and like make friends. Like it changed my life like profoundly. Um, some of those people are like coworkers. Like it was this big thing, and so while that's going, this horrific divorce goes down, and you know that's it. Just because like I occasionally put on Jordan Peterson, like it ruined my life,
I
and
I'm gonna interrupt you for a second because this is very similar to my story as well, so this makes sense to me. But just to feel this out a little for people who haven't been through something like this, because it's like, "Wait a minute, you got canceled for listening to Jordan Peterson." Um, can you tell me a little bit about when you were doing the Space Couch show
hmm
and you were talking to all these heroes and comic book creators and artists and musicians, and was it known that you listened to the Daily Wire or,
no, I
um
never brought it up. I had people from all walks of life, like it was like the bridge of the Enterprise, you know. We had people from all over the world, several trans people. Like it wasn't a part of the show at all. Um, and I one day was asked to be on someone else's podcast. They were just a fan of me. Um, and a big fan. It turned like it just like sorry, I know I'm all over the road, but it's weird to talk about like basically give your resume about how don't you know how famous I am? Like having to uh I saw this bit on Mark Maron, or not on Mark. He was a Mark Maron stand-up
the
special,
comedian.
and it just the comedian Mark Maron, like you might know him from Glow,
Yeah.
but it just like cut right through my heart, where he was talking about the horrific feeling, where somebody else has to explain to their friend how famous you are. Like it just, that doesn't feel good at all. But like we played a show once, like one of our more known songs was about otters because I think otters are cool.
Mhm.
And this little girl came up to me and showed me this stuffed otter and said I named it Brian. Ah! Indiana Jones too, like heart out of chest, right? So like I have these moments in my life where people are like, you saved my life with your silly music and stuff, and so all this is around, and but like you don't really acknowledge it. Where I'm going with this is you don't really kind of synthesize it, pardon the pun,
Mhm.
until you talk to like kind of a big fan, and I'd talk to this fan on her show, and I had such a good time. I was like, I have a show that five people watch. Why don't you come on? And it was presented to me that she had made some tweets perceived as unkind to the trans community. I said, I can talk to who I want to talk to. There was like all but threats made before the show, like we're gonna ruin you if you put this person on. And
Yes.
I'm the kind of you ruin you. And it was like, well, now I'm definitely gonna do it. Don't tell me
Yes.
who I can talk to. And this person and I had the episode's still up. I'm not gonna retcon it. It's not like it didn't happen.
Mhm.
Uh, we had an incendiary, horrific conversation about old video games and how to do a podcast, and that was it. And I went to sleep and woke up, and the world went away. the world went away overnight, and um, I had big fancy gigs lined up in England and Milwaukee and uh, Seattle. These like big, you know, when I say big, it's not like stadium crowds, but like people fly in for these things,
Mhm.
uh, just I uh, I didn't know what to do, and I made the mistake of trying to apologize, and that made it a million times
Oh,
worse.
yeah, so would it be okay if I show the open letter by Ben Peel?
Yeah, yeah, he's kind of a big like it was I achieved uh minor like canonization. There was this card game that I played for a million years called Vampire: The Eternal Struggle. This is like the guy that made Magic: The Gathering. This is
Mhm.
like he made this right after. So it's been going since like 1994, right? And Ben's a big deal in that world, and I'm forever a vampire. Like I'm art now on like one of the vampire cards. Like imagine playing like some Magic: The Gathering for
And then
long
they
enough
make
that you're in the game, right? Like I hit these crazy nerd uh, milestones, and that guy got it in his head that I'm, you know, well, you can share the letter.
Yeah, so this guy had something to do with that, and this I'm putting this up here. I appreciate you letting us show it because I think this is pretty classic, like, cancel culture stuff. So those of us who've been through cancel mobs, is you start to see these people, it's almost like they smell fresh meat. One or two people will, do an open letter and then people pile on. And that definitely happens in this thread. This is a Facebook thread from October of 2023 where he says an open letter to Brian Graupner of the Gothsicles. Um, and I just want to say something. I've read through the tweets of the woman who they had a problem with you bringing on your show. And it's all pretty, in my opinion, innocuous stuff. You can find the screenshots in this thread, but there are jokes in there. There's opinions about factual reality about people, about men not being women. You may not agree with those opinions, but it doesn't mean that a person doesn't like trans people. A lot of trans people have those opinions. I know because I've interviewed them.
Hmm.
And so these people in his letter is assuming a lot. It's assuming that there are no LGBTQIA plus people who disagree with parts of gender ideology or who disagree with things like medical and surgical intervention for children. There are. And so I just wanted to say that with that caveat in case there's anyone new watching this, in case any of these people find this video, I would like for Ben Peel and others to know, in case you don't know any based trans or gay people, you should expand your social circle. That's a phrase you guys like to use a lot. I'm saying it to you. Diversify your social circle. Meet some people who disagree with you, who are in these groups that you claim to speak for. That's sorry to interrupt the interview with that little public service announcement, but um here's what he says. I'm dismayed to see that you will be hosting an anti-trans far right YouTuber on your show. The goth industrial scene is intrinsically and essentially an LGBTQIA plus space. The examples of artists, authors, musicians, print media, visual media, fashion communities, etc., are too numerous to list. In the music scene, goth clubs and gay clubs often share the same space with overlapping clientele and staff. It is not possible to exclude or separate LGBTQIA plus people from this scene as they are integral to it. Well, who's separating them from it? No one. Likewise, the vampire genre, with its books, movies, TV shows, video games, role playing games, and card games, is also intrinsically and essentially an LGBTQIA plus space. The examples are likewise too numerous to list, and the LGBTQIA plus communities in that space are likewise integral to it. We are obviously free to have different or opposing views on trans rights and any other topic. Obviously, though, Ben, you're not. And he continues to say, you're obviously free to create whatever content you like on your YouTube channel and host whoever you like on your shows. The goth industrial scene is no stranger to views, ideas, and activities one might consider challenging, controversial, shocking, or transgressive. But apparently, you need to be reminded that platforming, promoting, and signal boosting anti trans views is antithetical to this community and would deny that the trans community be granted the dignity, validity, and rights as human beings that they deserve. I was proud to record vocals for a Gothsicles track and even prouder to perform it live with you at the Kinetic Festival. I was likewise proud of returning the favor with getting your likeness onto a Vampire the Eternal Struggle card. With the choices and actions you have made recently, I can no longer be proud of those things. The song and videos have been made, the cards have been printed and sold. I can't change those things now. But going forward, I cannot and will not allow my name to be associated with you and the Gothsicles. And then he signs it. Trans rights are human rights. The thing about this is, if you go into this 300 plus comments here, one of the most common things I found, and I just want to get your opinion on this. I saw so many people like Ben who knew you personally or had worked with you in the past who came into the comments to say, "Oh no, this doesn't sound like the Brian I know at all." Even a trans person who said, "Brian's been nothing but kind to me. Brian's always treated me well. This doesn't sound like the person I know and love." I can't, and then I can't believe he became a XYZ. What
Yep.
is that? How do you interpret that?
It um I I turned, to use a gaming term, I feel like I turned into XP points. Like I stopped being a person and
Mm,
just like this walking uh cache of points. Like if I take him down, it's worth 5,000 points. And I was like,
yes.
I know you. Like we played Tekken, like as kids. What are you talking about? Like what? Like just childhood friends calling for my head, like because I talked to somebody about City of Heroes. Like what? It just it just turned my stomach. And it became a signal to like to see who could boost their own virtue the most. It in a game to see who could signal boost their own virtue the most. It got like standing back. It was like this is unreal. I stopped mattering, and it just sort of became like uh, create like because people would message me later and be like, "I can't figure out what you did." I'm like, "I can't really
Yes.
figure it out either."
Yeah.
And so it was I became just sort of inflated to this supervillain status, so people would have something to fight against.
Yes. So they decided, in my opinion, incorrectly, that this woman you brought on your show, among many, many people you brought on your show, as you mentioned, also trans people, that this woman was a transphobe. I think they incorrectly came to that decision. Then it escalates into, now you are a transphobe for deigning to talk to this person. And then in the comments, it goes from, "I know and love Brian. I can't believe that this is what he's becoming," to then people saying, "Oh," as it escalates over days, then people saying, "Oh, I kind of always knew, or I got an inkling, or I heard that he had gotten into alt-right stuff." All these rumors, and then eventually your now ex-wife joined the pile-on and said that he listens to the Daily Wire, and I told him I could not be married to someone who's an alt-right. I mean, she called you
An
name.
alt-right conservative, and
Yes.
then made memes like we're 12. Like I'm old, and it's like then she's you know divorcing me for what feels like Instagram cred by
Yeah.
way of name, but it's like I won't stay married to an alt-right conservative. Like okay, I guess
Are
I'll
you a
support
are
you.
you a conservative? How do you identify
Yeah,
yourself at all?
yeah. Like the only reason I hesitate like a little bit is because like I think the whole team sports aspect of it can get
Yeah.
dicey. But for as much as that's useful, like yeah, like totally,
That's so in my case, I was a leftist. I was one of these woke people in this thread
yeah.
in the pylons for about 20 years. And when I left, it was like a 3-year process. It was a long leaving because it took me a while to see that everything I thought that belief system was that it was the opposite. It wasn't liberal, you know, and
Mm,
it's for cancellation, which is not liberal. It's for physical violence against
yeah.
opinions you don't like, which is not liberal. So it was a long leaving because it's almost like for me, it was like
I,
being in a cult.
that track that resonates with me as well. That feels like a very similar trajectory.
And so when I left, I've been called similarly all these, you know, I had a former feminist friend, like an actual friend, not just an online friend who is a pretty big feminist media critic who called me. She said it's so sad. Her formerly feminist friend is now become an alt right. Uh, I think she used the Nazi word. It's been a while, but you know, a
Yeah.
troll, right wing, red pill troll, what have you.
Oh yeah, all of
And
it.
and the thing is, like in my case, like with you, I find that people just people call me all kinds of things now. "Oh, she's conservative, she's this." I don't really find those labels important anymore. Do you find that those things are somewhat constricting? Like, I it's hard for me. I'm like, "Well, I'm conservative on some things, I'm liberal on others." You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
do you think that those things like you said, you mentioned, tribes, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or you mentioned, you know, there's something it sounded like you were trying to say there's something confining about that label. Do you find that to be true, or is I reading into that?
Well, no, that's good. Like it's just I um the whole like it feels dangerously reductive to be like just okay that and that no now
Yeah.
fight right
Yeah.
um and like there's some utility in being like yeah okay for what we're talking about here like I lean pretty right not all the way there's like some other religion stuff I'm not like quite down with but like um for as much as is practical yeah but like that also leads to well then you must believe this that they're like no okay
Exactly.
um so the whole label thing like I mean just as humans we need to abbreviate sometimes to fit it all into our dumb little meat brains but like there's a danger in that.
Yeah. Were you always, you know, maybe sort of just, you know, conservative, or was this like in my case, I was
No,
on the hard left for a long time. Did you
no,
have
I mean like I because in goth world like that's what it is. Republicans are the bad guys, and left are the good guys, and there's no gray area there, right? And pardon the pun. And and that's how uh good versus evil it gets. So if you even think about thinking about it, like the whole thing just got so thought crimey it really just turned my stomach.
in those comments in, you know, as I mentioned, like the escalating comments in the pylon
Mhm.
that was happening for you, what are some of the things that happened? I know they ended up coming to your wall, people were messaging you. There was also this tone that they'd sometimes take where they say, "I'm trying to help him," you know, "We're trying to help."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, trying to help, meaning, like, we're gonna yell at you in the comments, and if you don't agree, then, you know, check that box, tried to help.
Yeah.
Um, and, like, I got all these, like, just bonkers threats in my inbox every day, and Excuse me, I like seltzer, so I'm burping
No, I'm the same. It's
into the
fine.
mic like a heathen. Awesome. Uh, and then I just would be like banned from the clubs and stuff like that. Like all the local. This was in Boston. All the local Boston clubs, and it was like just like overnight, like literally overnight. Like I woke up and it was just the whole world was different, and like just all these promoters like we can't associate with you, and people would be like, I'm secretly on your side, but like don't tell anybody. Just like just wild. And then the flip side, like people that I don't interact with, but like wildly respect, were like, oh, I lost you.
Oh, you did? Can you
No
hear me
way,
now?
maybe that's just my machine. Oh yeah, okay. The woke up came from
We're good?
no,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. It'd be like, what? This band I've worshipped since high school just messaged me, and like, how did you get this number? But like, uh, so like,
To say
and that
positive things?
to say positive things, and now my shit's bled over onto them. That's a whole other thing. But
Mm.
uh, it really went crazy. Um, I had to move. Uh,
Wha
it go on.
At what point did you before we get to you moving, at what point did this intervention with involving your parents happen, and how did that come about?
That was during the divorce. That was my wife at the time orchestrated that after Thanksgiving. Like it was the weirdest thing. Like like they said I ate too much and then said I didn't eat enough, and I was like, what? It like this weird little like that I slept too much or didn't sleep enough, like weird because like I work out a lot, and then they said like I was too like concerned in fitness, and nothing made sense. And then we were talking about it later, and then it went right into the political. It's like, oh, that's what this was the whole time, and 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 then we would do couples therapy, and then she'd be like, "Well, you're an anti-Semite." Like, wait, what? Like, I don't even know if I know any Jewish people. Like, what is anti-Semite? What is it? Just like just crazy stuff, and you know, like it bled over into the rest of my family, and like this, it just got really, really ugly, and that's the long and short of it with mom
And
and dad.
that was before you moved. So this blew up.
Yeah.
People started saying, "I can't associate with you," canceling you from gigs, banning you from clubs, and then also some people secretly saying, "I agree with you, but I'm familiar with this too. I agree with you,
Mhm.
but don't tell anyone."
Right,
Uh,
right.
so then why did you have to leave Boston?
Oh, I lived after I moved out from the divorce. I got into this really great, weird um i- industrial burnout sort of commune space. Um, it was a great place to live, and we put on like noise shows and industrial shows like in the space, and like one of the guys was the other guy in the Gothsicles at the time, and I played with him in like at least two more bands, and it was a very LGBTQ friendly space. I was fine with that, and then it just the shit went down so hard, and friends that we'd had over to watch movies are like wanting to kill me. Um, they wouldn't like just these crazy emails. I'm like, it's never gonna go away. We're always gonna follow you. Like Jesus Christ. um, and like we watched wacky movies like 2 weeks ago. What do you like? Uh, and then so like that guy's got to make this big old stink on Facebook about how he's publicly dissociating, and he doesn't support bigotry, and I'm like, all right, I can't. Like, why am I staying here? I'm just like out. Like, I'm not gonna have people over to my house for shows and like hide in my room like a refugee in a
Yeah.
place a place I pay rent. Um, so no one was like, get the fuck out now. But it's like the writing's on the wall. You kind
Yeah. I'm sure it didn't feel very much like a home anymore to have
no, no. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, just to have so many people who you trusted, who you considered to know you, to know who you are, to
Yeah, I
then
mean, that was my refuge after the divorce, and now I have to like avoid eye contact with everybody when I'm washing the dishes. Like why
Mhm.
would I stay there?
Yeah. Can you tell me I know it hasn't been that long. This was the end of 2023, so I
Yeah.
think you're probably still going through a lot of the after effects of this, but so far, have you had time to, like, reflect on it? What about
Well,
anything that you've learned as a what have you learned about human nature?
I mean, then I poured gasoline on that fire. Because everyone was like, "How are you gonna get back in people's good graces?" And I was like, "Who made them my masters? Like, why?
Right.
Why do I
Right.
have to just abase myself before you know Facebook?" And so I released another album under another band that's sort of like my main outlet right now called Gasoline Invertebrate. And people went bonkers. Like for
Gasoline
all the
Invertebrate, this is the new one.
yeah, this is the new one. And for all the cancellation that we were talking about just now, like the overnight one, like it went crazy, crazy. Like there was, I just opened up, and like there was, uh, I'll just say the names of the songs are very naughty. Beat me out later if you want. But like the opening track was called "You Gutless Fucks Did Me Dirty." Like and
Yes,
uh, there was a track on there called "Leftism Is Bad." Like I just laid it out, and uh,
I have
like
to you make me think so much of okay, I just have to tell you this really quickly.
yeah, go ahead.
One of the biggest woke SJW mobs cancellations I've ever covered before were the knitting wars in the knitting community. You may not know a lot about this.
Really?
Yes, they're huge.
I know,
Um
like, there is some crossover in goth world and knitting world, so, like, it's on, like, the
Oh,
very periphery of my consciousness, so, like, a little I know knitting is big, that's about where it ends.
knitting's big and it's big on Instagram, and so, a few years ago when I had a different channel, we brought on and interviewed, some people who were targets of this, but basically, there were several people that they went after that the SJW, the woke knitters, which is most of the online knitting world now, they would target anyone who didn't speak woke, um, and they would go after them to the point of one guy who was a sock designer, sockmatician, who's gay and HIV positive and in sort of in that lefty world already. He's the one that coined the diversity hashtag. He did a poem asking for radical kindness during all of these cancellations, and they considered his poem about radical kindness, uh, to be basically worthy of canceling him, and he ended up in the hospital on suicide watch. They got him canceled from knitting conventions. His husband finally had to put out a statement saying, "Can you please stop sending him hate? Like, it's it's been received." Um, but one of the knitters, Maria Tuscan of Tuscan Knits, she did what you just did. She took a break. Her sin was that she did a video saying she didn't wanna be a part of any of this. That's all she said. She didn't give an opinion one way or the other. She just said, "I'm gonna take a break for a while because things are really toxic right now online." And so for that sin, they came after her, tried to cancel her knitting, her yarn business, said that she's a white supremacist, all this stuff. Um, and so she took a break to recover from this. She got canceled from knitting festivals, everything. And when she came back like you did with this record. And instead of groveling, she put out a line of yarn mocking them, where all the yarn colors, the dye colors were called things like white fragility, like all of their buzzwords, right? And I think what you're doing here, I'm sorry, that was a long kind of little summary there, but I wanted to tell you, I think what you're doing, I've seen this before. It's like you're doing a kind of spiritual alchemy. You're
Yeah.
taking something shitty and you're spinning it into gold and something funny. They hate they hate humor, these people.
Mhm.
So you're kind of
Yeah.
mocking it with this record, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a big degree of that. Um, like I just put out a single called "Being Called Transphobic." Like that's the name of the track, and like there's like the Daffy Duck laugh I sample in it. It was a pain in the ass to sync up, but like I like dance music, so you
Yeah.
got to do it. But yeah, it was hard. Like it got really dark, and I was gonna like it really dark, and like I was gonna end it, and then like I flew out to hang out with my buddy in LA for a week, and then like then they came after him, and it was just like you guys are like how do you have this much time?
They
Like
came after him because you're hanging out with him?
yeah. Um and That's a whole other story. I'm gonna be all over the road because it's a lot. It's
That's okay.
to take like this record label that I started, like that all went away. All those guys, that whole family had went away, and I just started up the Space Couch thing again. Got to interview Hate's Apartment, one of my favorite bands from high school. He was one of the guys that I said message me. He's like, "Be in my band." I'm like, "Hell yeah!" There was a big gig in Milwaukee we were gonna play, and they're like, "Not with Brian." Like, and then so Hate's Apartment, because he's got a pair, said like, "Then we're off." Like they canceled the whole gig on my behalf, and it's like, I have your records over there. Like
Oh,
I'm looking at them. Like don't cancel a gig on my thing. And he's like, no, nobody tells me what to do. Where I'm going with this is just because I had that guy in my show that I just brought back. This is just like 10, 10 minutes before he went on the air. Like people now are coming after him, like scumbag piece of shit motherfucker. He's like, I talked to a guy about the '90s. Like what? It's so yeah. To get way back to your point, I don't know. Like, I think this is a word that I am loath to use, not because it's inaccurate, because it's just sort of internety right now, but sort of all roads lead to narcissism, and
mm,
I became in an ancillary part of the story. It was just about who can sort of beat their chest the loudest.
yes.
And I was watching this happen, and like this album, Crash and Burn and Burn and Burn, out now. It was called Crash and Burn and Burn and Burn. It was about the whole thing. Oh hey,
This
because because it wasn't Crash and Burn. It was just and Burn and Burn because it just kept going. Just like that's the one you can see.
yeah,
Song.
the titles that you mentioned, yeah, for anyone who's just listening, this is the album. You can get the album below. I've got all the links below, but these are some of the titles you mentioned. You got "Let's Fucks Did Me Dirty." I'm not alt-right or a neo-Nazi or whatever, you fucking assholes.
Call him like I see him, right?
This is why I think there's so much comedy in it, and
Yeah, yeah. Like I could never really get like that hard with it. Um,
you're able to still have you're able to laugh at it
yeah. I mean,
ever?
it took a lot. Like I kind of liken it to a werewolf transformation. Um, in that, like, if you watch him in like the movies, it's like you got like the guy, and then he starts like um, doing this body morphing thing, and it hurts. And like it always looks like it's painful. Like they're never like
Yeah.
into it. Like it's and it's like it's really, really effing painful. And then at the end, they're this jacked wolf guy. They're 1,000 times stronger. And I think I'm getting into the wolf man part of it. It took a lot, and I'm maybe not there yet. Like I don't have a lot of friends, and not much of a family, you know, internet or biological. But I'm getting there. So what have I learned about people? I don't know. Like a lot. I'm seeing some. Like I'm just not. Like the only winning move is not to play, right? Like I think I'm pretty good at just like staying above a lot of people trying to get a rise out of me. What feels like people trying to get a rise out of me. And now I'm seeing like this interesting phenomenon where like let's say I'll make a post like uh that album you just had up hit the German alternative charts. It was number 5. It just fell one spot to number 6. But holy crap, 2 weeks on the German alternative charts. That's pretty awesome. And then people try to take me down for it, and I'm just not responding. And then now I'm seeing comments being deleted. Like they're
Okay.
trying to take a rise at me. No one's taking the bait. People are on my side, and then the comment gets deleted. I'm like, okay, I see how this game is played.
Uh,
Like,
because
like it,
you're not responding in the way they want.
yeah, yeah. People are seeing that not everybody agrees with them automatically, and then so it's like that resolve crumbles, and it's like, all right, I see your game, and I don't know. You just this the gutlessness is
Mm.
really astounding. Like that's where that comes from. It's not the people that you gutless fucks did me dirty. It's not so much about the people that are like just with the pitchfork mob. It's about the people next to the pitchfork mob.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
really, you? Okay, cancel my Patreon and defriend me on Facebook because you don't want to even though we listened to Weird Al albums together since we were 9. Like what?
What is it about you or your background, do you think that I know exactly the gutlessness you're talking about, and I think well, before we did this interview, I was sharing with you some thoughts about reading through your cancellation, and, the Ash conformity experiments is something I talk about a lot because they helped me to understand people better, and I that study would lead you to believe that maybe as many as 75% of people will will conform to whatever's the
Mhm.
popular opinion, they'll just go along with it. Um, you're clearly not one of those people. You're not doing the popular thing right now. What is it about you? Is there something in your background, do you think? Is there something about your character, or what is it about you that made you sort of immune to this cowardice that
Well,
seems to be consuming people?
Immunity might be generous because it really screwed me up badly. I mean, there was a time in my life when the worst thing was just my nightmarish divorce. And
Mm.
now that's like 5th or 6th place.
Wow,
It's
yeah.
it's so crazy. It really hurt. I this is gonna sound so victimy, but this is the reality as I have experienced it. I cannot tell you anything else. And maybe it even goes back to the Gothsicles because it's I've never been able to be dishonest. Like
Mm.
I can't bring the flex like sing these horrific songs of pain at the age of 18 when I started it because I've never lived it, but I love the Transformers. So let me talk about Devastator or sample the Thundercats or something. That's the most honest thing I can do. And uh, when people are showing me these tweets that this Jess, who's now my friend, we talk a lot now. The guest that got
Mhm.
me in such hot water made it was like, you know what? I don't disagree. Like Uh, and I'm not gonna be dishonest out of fear. Are you kidding me? For art. Like, are you double kidding me? Like, that's what it's for. It it was so the path was so clear to me, and to do anything else just oh, it just makes me feel horrific. Like I need to just take the hottest shower available. Like uh I can't be anything else but real.
Mm.
And you know, I I'm just gonna people are threatening me because Space Couch was live at the time, and like I'm getting like my ex-wife left this weird message, and like people are like, "Don't do this." And I'm like, "What? You're gonna intimidate me from talking to someone who was a fan who I said was gonna be on? I'm not gonna tell this person like, no, you can't be on it because I might get in trouble on the internet. Like, are you
Yes, but
fucking kidding me?"
that's a moral fortitude that many people don't have even as adults. And I'm very impressed by it. Do you have do you think it comes from I always try to figure out what makes people, if not immune, then somewhat immune to going along with the crowd. Is it do you have a particular faith system, belief system, or is it family, the way you were raised, or is there a distaste for authority, or like is there something that because you're different from all these people piling on you.
Hmm. I mean, it's I'm a very a-religious person. Um, and uh, I I'm not like this like super punk rock football systems because like sometimes you need authority. Like we need to get things done. So
Yes.
like you need some system in place. Like it's just silly to say f it all. Um, but I don't know. I think I just value accuracy,
Mhm.
and it's either right or it's not right, and like it's to me it's easy in terms of like yeah, that's what it is. Why would I say it's anything else?
Mm.
Like that's I'm
Why would
not
I
gonna
deceive?
I don't want to have my thoughts assigned to me. Like gross. Like so it's to me I can't conceive of being a different way. I'm a little simple in that way, I guess. Maybe I feel like I'm lucky. It just feels like it's this I don't know how else to be.
Mm. So, when you put out your new project with a different
Yeah.
band name, Gasoline Invertebrate, and you're kind of it seems to me like a cathartic album and also a humorous one. Uh, what's been the response to that?
Well, yeah, we had talked about it before. That was the craziest thing.
That was the craziest part.
Yeah, like people put out like parody albums of it uh like in a day, and like just wild stuff. Like I was like they would post to like the whatever, like I won't say the actual like name it, like the whatever the Lawrence, Kansas area. Watch out for this guy. Like what are you talking like?
Watch out.
w-
They
Yeah.
added you to a, I found this, that
Oh yeah.
when that project came out, you got added to there were posts done about you on Reddit, you got added to a problematic bands list,
Yeah.
which are all the
I haven't seen a lot
problematic
of that. Yeah.
goth bands, and look, there's tons of them. You're on the same list as Alice Cooper.
Hey,
David
that's
Bowie's on here. Uh,
oh,
yeah, problematic. There you
yeah.
are, the Gothsicles.
Yeah, yeah, all the everyone went like just wild, and to millions, but a lot of it I just can't deal with it. So like I haven't gone through a lot of those threads, but it was like, he effed around and found out, like
Oh,
I saw people posting, and just really just stomach turning, you know, can't
well,
handle it.
well, what has it done for your future? Like, what have they really done to you? Now, I'm not making light of what they've done. The things they do when they go after people are horrible.
Yeah.
You can lose relationships. You had a divorce. You can lose friendships or people that you thought were your friends. Income, lose gigs. You can lose your good name in some places because they'll smear you and defame you and call you all these things you're not. But at the end of the day, what can they really do to you?
It's a good question. I certainly like I had a Patreon that was rocking, and my Kickstarters would get like wonderful people would make these Kickstarters happen in like an hour, when you hit the goal or whatever. And I was just so just like lucky. Like I would go to sleep being like, okay, where's the candid camera? Like at any moment, it's gonna turn out that none of this is real in a good way. And now it's sort of
Mhm.
like that none of this is real in a bad way. But like I feel clean, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
and it's like I I I I couldn't live with myself. Like if I just cowered and like nobody be mad at me. Here's a song about salamanders. Like it like I feel like I'm walking around like a person and not
Mm.
this impression of a person. And it's I losing all those big gigs was tough. Like seeing the photos on Facebook and watching like posters having to be reprinted without my band logo on it and stuff. Uh and you know finding a new avenues for live shows and stuff. I'm starting to get that back, but like what can they take from me? Like I didn't think that Crash and Burn album was gonna go anywhere, and then it charts, right?
Yeah.
Or and I just put it out for like name your price because I'm like no one's gonna want this, and then like somebody I don't know drops like $50 on a 10-track, 13-track album, like okay, so it's like it's like this just pushing away the string of beads on the doorway of life and being like, oh, this is what it is when you're
Mm.
not kabukiing this character out of fear.
Yeah. They can't take away your integrity. They can't take away your joy, your sense of humor. The things that make you uniquely you and the things that matter most. And again, not to make light of what they have taken, taking these gigs and stuff, but I just get a sense. I was excited to talk with you because talking on email is one thing, but talking with you over video is very different. And I just get the sense that you're resilient. And
Yeah.
I know you're not a religious person, but I'm going to tell you a verse that was really helpful for me later on. I wasn't
Uh-huh.
a religious person when I left my cult. But later on, I started opening my mind to the possibility of God and reading things differently and thinking about them differently. Anyway, this quote is from Genesis and it says, "What you intended to do me harm, God intended for good." And I say that to people sometimes, even if you're not a believer, because I think there's so much importance in that, like
That's awesome.
something horrible, something that people can do to you. intending to hurt you and in fact hurting you can still be used and channeled into something good later on. It's a weird thing that can happen, that you can have a silver lining to something awful. But I think, like you said, you used the werewolf analogy. You're becoming stronger right now,
I
and you're
feel
still in
like
the
it.
middle of it.
Yeah, so this imperative reaction is this lauded industrial band, produced a couple of tracks. He's under a lot of fire. I saw he got canceled from some podcast just because he talks to me. But he did. He's That guy's a gangster. He did some amazing production work, and he's like, "This is awesome." Like, let's collaborate in the future. I'm like, "Oh, all right." King of 2008, like, giving into the change. That track still fills the floor every Tuesday night or whatever the goth night is in your area. Like, it's goth top 40, and um uh I'm like, uh is it okay if I put your name down as a
Mhm.
producer credit on this? And he's like, hell yeah. And I'm like, mm. And then other people are like, could you leave my name off?
Yeah,
And I'm like, all right, but
right.
I'm not calling you again. Like, and then some people were like, yeah, we're still friends, but I heard you're a Nazi. Okay, let me go puke in the bathroom. Yikes. Are you kidding me?
Have you had any actual Nazis come out to you and be like, "Me too"?
Well,
You're like,
like, we hang out at the white power meetings that
I
I
see, I
obviously go
see.
to. Yeah, like, what if it doesn't conflict with my KKK
Right.
schedule?
Very
Like, what?
busy.
Yeah.
That's such a funny there's so many funny things that like, funny moments you can find even in something awful like a cancellation, and it's like, that's kind of hilarious that some people were like, "Hey, we're still friends," but
Yeah, or I made new friends, and you know, I it's there's like the study where it's like, I'm not smart enough to remember the name of this study. Maybe you know more than I think. I heard about this on well, maybe the Victor David Hansen show, but like, if there's a bunch of people and you draw two lines that are like not parallel, right?
Mm.
And one person's like the mark. Everybody's in on the study, and they all say that no, both these lines are parallel. The mark will most of the time say like, oh yeah, they're parallel.
that's the study I mentioned before. It's the
Okay,
Ash
that's okay.
conformity experiment, and they've done several versions of it. The first version was they would say, "Pick the longest line," and they would have a series of lines. It was about length of the line, and there would be one that's obviously the longest, and they would have 5 or 6 people lined up who were all plants who would pick the wrong line, and then sometimes around like 70 or 75% of the time, the person they're actually studying would go along with the crowd and pick the line.
Yeah, but you must have hypnotically planted that, because I thought that's what it was, but I didn't want to
Yeah,
commit
it's
when you said the name of
crazy.
the study. But I'm just pulling this out of my memory, so
Mhm.
sorry if I misspeak. But if one of the people in on it disagrees, just one person, the probability of the mark to say the true thing goes up something like 200 fold, right? Um,
Love that. I didn't remember that. So thank
that
you.
well, that's the detail that, like, really was like sort of made it okay for me to be like,
Yeah.
no. Like, I talked to a guy. He's like, "What are you gonna do to get back in people's good graces?" And I'm like, "That's assuming a lot." Why would I want to move 10 extra albums uh, to people that called for my head? Like, no, and and for what? Because be, it would be one thing if I said something effed up, but like, I had a person on my show that doesn't think we should be chemically castrating kids. Like, it
Yeah.
seems like a good idea to me.
That's the crazy world we're in now, though. But they try to say that's the loving kindness side, right? To chemically castrate kids, yeah. Um, well, so okay, so what's next for you?
I just laid down vocals, and I was a little bit nervous because I'm in a new apartment in Knoxville, and so I was hoping to not like piss off my new neighbors, but nobody banged at the door or anything. Just laid down vocals before this on a new track, um, and I'm sort of rounding phase one on yet another Gasoline album. Um, I think it's going to be even better than this one, the last one. Space Couch is back! Yeah!
Woohoo!
The guest I had on is getting hate mail just for talking to me, but I've got some really great guests lined up for that show. I'm looking at relaunching like a Substacky, localsy thing. I got to figure that whole thing out. But like, I'm, you know, you can't take me out with mean tweets.
Yeah.
And you know, to say nothing of getting to talk to you on Deprogrammed here. Like I'm
Aw.
not even blowing smoke. Like this is really cool for me. Um, and if you ever want to come on Space Couch, open invite.
Oh, Brian,
Uh,
I'll be there. It's
hell yeah! Okay,
what's
this is
that?
really exciting.
What's that meme where the guy's being about to be hung and he's looking at the guy next to him? He's like, first time.
Ah,
It's not the first time.
all
Yeah,
right, yeah.
of course, I'll come
Open
on.
invite to come on Space Couch. We'll talk after this. So, really excited about this new Gasoline album. Already got cover art. Yeah, pretty sure I got an album name. I got 9 tracks in. I got some pretty lofty ideas. We'll see if we can pull them off. I want to go an even level higher than the last one in terms of what I can do. We'll see if we can make it happen. I'm in that artistic phase where I don't hate it yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where, like I just made it, and so I'm all like excited about it. And I
excited.
haven't listened to it 1,000 times to the point that I'm like, oh my god, this is terrible. I'm the worst in the world. But so that's all Gasoline and Invertebrate. That's me trying and failing to be a tough guy, and then but it's silly, like, because like the way that project started, and stop me if I'm rambling, edit this out later. But
You're
like I
not
did the
rambling.
Gothsicles for like a long time, like and I did everything that I wanted to do with it. Like we headlined Dragon Con, like that's like the nerd industrial Woodstock. Like that's the thing, man. And like we did it, and like uh just getting these emails from around the world was like, what is going on? And uh and if you listen to the music, it's weird, right? Like it's just me essentially screaming over a dance beat.
Do you mind if I play a little bit?
Oh, please, yeah.
Okay, so this is a real treat. I have Stag Beetle Professional Wrestling pulled
Yeah,
up.
okay, great.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, let's do that one. Let's see. There we go.
It's Stag Beetle, professional wrestling, gargantuan action, it's scaled down dimensions, catering to bombs across the land. 3-7 leaves at the concession stand. In one corner was the tiny titan, weighing in at 2 grams and ready for fighting. In the other corner was the mini mauler, intercontinental champion ready for brawling. It's Stag Beetle. It's Stag Beetle. It's Stag Beetle. Professional wrestling. It's Stag Beetle. It's Stag Beetle. It's Stag Beetle. Professional wrestling. It's Stag Beetle. It's Stag Beetle. The match began with a clothesline by Titan. Then he dropped a super chop right in the chitin. Waller was in trouble, it was almost finalized. But Lottie from the audience soon got him re-energized. He jumped off the turnbuckle and made her flex his mandibles. A triple somersault, it was barely even landable. A devastating megaton straight to the thorax. He rolled over his opponent right onto his back. It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! Professional wrestling! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! Professional wrestling! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! Professional wrestling! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! Professional wrestling! Please stay tuned for the female division, with powerful pincers and crazier collisions. It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! Professional wrestling! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! Professional wrestling! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! Professional wrestling! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! It's Stag Beetle! Professional wrestling!
That's just amazing.
Well, thank you. Two things about that. That's off of an album called Animal Songs, and two things about that real quick. Like, I learned a lot making that album because, like I said before, I value accuracy. So I had to research it. The 2 grams is the average weight of a stag beetle, and the pincers of the female stag beetle are indeed more powerful than the male pincers. The male ones are sort of just protuberances for like show almost. But
It's what was the other thing?
that the average weight of the beetle is indeed 2 grams.
I think that this is are there kids? There are kids who listen to this, right?
Yeah, that
Also?
Animal Songs was made because, like, I would get a lot of people. The two things I would hear after a lot of Gothsicle shows was the backhanded compliment All Star. That was actually really good, and and the little bit of a backhand, like my kids would love that. And then when my sister had her 2 kids, I was like, okay, now it's time for a kids album. And it went a little bit more like, honestly, just sort of my hard dance thing. Like, I don't swear on it at all, but it's a swear-free album about animals. So it's a kind of a kids album.
Adults and kids can
Yeah, it's kind of
enjoy
my
this
brand.
one. And
Right.
it's just there's so much humor in it because it's the juxtaposition of the hard music and the vocals with what you're singing about is just, hey, here's some cool things about the stag
Yeah.
beetle.
Right, but like singing is very generous. Thank you. It's just this sort of punk rock howl I've been doing all my life. But see, that sort of thing shouldn't work. And then you play that,
Yeah.
and then Down in It or some 9 Inch Nails hit like we talked about before, and in the same night. It's like kind of opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
One of the best things, but like I was listening. I had a big long drive, and I had this just like industrial music podcast. And on this particular show, it was like a 3-hour just music show, and the DJs would cut in. And the on this particular show, they would always ask a question every episode. And on this episode was, "What's the worst industrial band?" And on this big long drive, I'm getting to the end of the episode, just like in my car. And I'm like, I'm gonna make it out of this alive. They haven't brought up the Gothsicles at all. And right at the end, they go, like this audible, the Gothsicles. I was like, "Durr!" And then the other host said, but here's the thing. Every time you bring them up, people will effing kill you if you say anything bad about them. And I was like, that's amazing. Look, I had this super dedicated fan base that I used to have that all went away. So on the back of that, I'd done this weird Gothsicles thing for a long time. And but growing up, listening to like Suicide Commando and Wumpscut and like these really intense, dark stuff, and I was like, "Am I just doing this Gothsicles thing because I can't do this other thing?" And so, and then like we hit the Gasoline topped at number 2, the previous release in the German alternative charts, the colloquially known as the DACH, Deutsche Alternative Charts. And it was like this, oh, okay, vindication. I put my money where my mouth is. Like, I can do it. And then it sort of turned into like my weirdo nature sort of injected it into it, and it kind of became this sort of bizarro character. But I pulled it off in Seattle, and then I was gonna change the whole thing up after this cancellation and sort of like almost change my name. It was like, no, I sort of have this other sort of darker persona, so I'm gonna go with that. And that's sort of where I'm feeling it now. The Gothsicles will come back. Like I can never divorce myself from it. Pardon the pun, but it's just now where my interest is right now.
Right now, it's with
Gasoline and Invertebrate. Yeah. Although I started a new label because that's what I do. And I moved the Gothsicles to that, and it's called Ligerhawk, sort of a very explicit reference to Tiger Squawk, which that was a reference to my vocal style, Tiger Squawk.
Yeah.
But now it's called Ligerhawk just because that rhymes. But that's going well. Excited. I forgot the question.
Oh, we were talking about what's next for you, and you were talking about your music. And
rambling tirade.
No, you're fine. I'm just really excited for you. I think there's a lot of good stuff to come for you, and I really appreciate you dredging all this up again and talking about it. And if anyone at Deprogrammed, if we can ever be of any help to you in any way, just let us know. Go ahead.
Sorry, I got excited when you said that. I didn't mean to talk over you. Maybe you can help me out with this, because it's like I'm struggling, not struggling because it's like who cares, but like I'm questioning how far to dig into it in terms of like, because I'll get these messages like this person is obsessed with you and hates you, and like I don't see it because it's like I consciously avoid a lot of that. And like it felt really gross for me to block people because it's like, I want to be like a free speech guy, but like if you're just harassing me and going through like all my tweets to like just find anything good, like I'm, here's like a pun that I made, and you got to be like, fuck you, like, okay, all right, and I'll get these messages like so and so is obsessed with you, just made this big long post, and like I don't go and read it because it's like, why go down that road? But am I setting myself up for failure, or is that denial?
No.
Okay.
I'll give you my best advice based on my experiences. So I started walking away from my old belief system in 2016 and 17. And so it's been, I don't know, oh my goodness, it's been almost 8 years now. But at the beginning, I was like you. I was in that cult, the woke left social justice cult. I didn't want to join another cult. So I was very hesitant to, I changed my voter registration from a Democrat, which I'd been my whole life, to Green, and then I changed it to independent. I'm independent here in Texas because I was like, I'm not going to join another political party. I mean, I'll vote for Republicans now if I think they're the most liberal candidate, which lately they have been, because they're not they're not trying to force me to get certain medical procedures or
How could you
to
say anything so bigoted?
they're not trying to shut down my free speech, and they're
Yep.
not trying to disarm the citizens. So I'm
Yep.
like, they're more for freedom right now, and it might switch
Yep.
back at some point. But anyway, the point being, I was really hesitant to join any tribe, so to speak, which I think is fine. People call me all kinds of things. They'll say, well, she's in this tribe or she's in that tribe or whatever. But whatever you want to say is fine. I don't care. The other thing I was hesitant to do though was what you're just talking about. I really thought for the first year or two that no matter what a person said to me or did to me, I should not block them. And I should sort of show them with my behavior this better way of being. Like, even if you're going to abuse me constantly, I'm going to respond to you with kindness or try to, and I'm not going to block you. That was a good experiment to try for a couple years. I think it made me stronger in a lot of ways. But I will tell you now, because I have the benefit of several years of this, I think what you're doing in the end is actually a bit healthier, and that's kind of where I'm at now. I
Mm.
don't I will block people now if they not for having the different opinions. There's tons of woke people who still leave comments on my profile and stuff, that's fine. But if they're
Mhm.
hateful, it's more to
Mhm.
me about who they are as people. I don't
Mhm.
want you around me if you are no matter what your opinions are, if you're a hateful person who's trying to cause harm, like
Mhm.
actual harm, not the way they use the word harm, but if you're just coming in
Mhm.
and calling names and insulting, and I give people 2 or 3 tries to try and talk to me like a human, and then it's like, "Well, you really are not capable of this. Goodbye." And I will block them
Mhm.
because otherwise those people are not adding any value to your life. They just want to tear you down so they can feel better about themselves. And so I don't see a problem with blocking those kind of people
Okay.
because it's more about their intention. Intention, the left tries to pretend that intent doesn't matter. They'll say, it doesn't matter if you intended to be racist or sexist or transphobic or whatever.
You're right. Oh,
It
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it depends how it's received, and that's not true. Intent matters a lot. A person's character matters a lot. And so if a
That's
person has
realistic.
good and yeah, if they have good intentions, but they have horrible ideas and opinions, I'm still gonna be their friend. I'm still friends with some social justice and woke people. They keep it on the down low, but it's because I think they're good people who
Uh-huh.
have an evil belief system, my old belief system, but I think at heart they're good, and then vice versa, I will cut people out who speak anti-woke stuff like I do, but who I think are just nasty in how they
Mhm.
treat people. I'm like, "You're gone," because I don't want that nastiness around me.
Mhm.
So that's kind of a ramble, but in terms of
No.
reading the rants and videos, don't. It
Okay.
don't. It gets in your head.
Yeah.
You might at
Yeah.
some point have a trusted friend or advisor who collects those things for you on a hard drive in case you ever need any of that for any reason.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't suggest reading it because it doesn't matter what they're saying in the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. I mean, I something in my brain prevents me from doing it. Like I'll try to dip my big toe in because I feel like I should, and then it's like it's just that stomach turning. Like, not this feels bad to me. This is just sort of gross.
Yeah.
This is just a big ball of poop. Like, why would I? For its own right, not because it's directed at me. I didn't mean to get super scatological, but like I think you know what I'm
Funny.
saying. So, but um, okay,
It is
because
gross. You know why it feels gross? Because it's I do believe I believe we have a soul. This is something I debated this for a long time. I became obsessed with this after I left woke. And I think we're not just a computer brain and a physical body. I think we're spiritual
uh-huh.
creatures as well. And it's damage. It's not just, there's emotional damage, there's psychological damage, there's physical damage, but I think there's a thing that's called spiritual damage. It's like where you're
Mhm.
hurting your soul if you roll around in the mud too long with a pig. You know,
It resonates a lot with me, I have to say.
yeah, because you know that saying, if you roll in the mud with the pig likes it. And and you just get dirty, and your soul feels dirty for having spent time on it or giving them your attention or letting it affect your mood that day or
Yeah. Well, there's the quote. I don't. this feels like a Mark Twainism, but I don't know if it is. But spite is drinking poison and hoping somebody else dies.
Yes.
And so, like, yeah, why would I drink that poison? All right, all right.
There's also a lot of that quote, I can't remember. You're right, I don't know if that's Twain or who that is, but that quote also makes me think of, Eckhart Tolle, who's kind of a
Yeah,
new
totally.
age sorta guy. He he said something when I first started leaving when I was going through this, like, leaving my old belief system, I read his book, The Power of Now, and, it actually helped. I was skeptical, I was like, "I don't wanna read a self-help, whatever." But one of the things he talked about is what you react to in another, you can sometimes strengthen in yourself. And I see
Mm,
that online all the time. It's like someone being hateful towards me, and I can feel it pulling hatred out of me towards them. And I'm learning to not indulge that because
mm,
I don't want to grow that in me. So it's sort of it's better just to block that hateful person and move on.
mhm.
And yeah, I don't know if that's
No,
helpful, but
that's amazing. Like I that's that's really big for me. Like there's really not a manual for this sort of thing. So so any sort of guiding light is powerful. I appreciate that.
and don't apologize. I wanted to come back to this. You said you attempted an apology and it was a mistake. Don't apologize unless and for anyone listening, if you go through something like this on a small scale or large scale, don't apologize unless it's real. Because unless you really did something that's wrong that you regret, if you didn't, then don't apologize just to try and, as you said, get back in good graces or what have you,
Well,
because it won't work
could
anyway.
could I speak to that?
Please, please.
And I know we're going long here.
That's fine.
But it's like uh I I'm a you know, like I maybe this is gonna take a few ticks off my man card or whatever, but like I'm a pretty sensitive guy. Like I feel it,
So
you
is
know
my
what I mean?
husband. It's
Like
fine.
awesome, awesome, and it's like all these friends are this blush of like it. It wasn't that it was I wanted like I feel bad because you're attacking me. I feel bad because you're feeling bad. Like I
Uh,
wanted to take those bad feelings away. Like I'm sorry that there's this horror in the world and I ostensibly caused it. I want to alleviate this pain, and I'm not trying to be like a martyr or anything. That's just the way that I felt about it.
yeah.
And and it was like I don't want to have to increase the amount of hurt in the world. Let me sort of, and it was like, but I think people kind of want it. And I
Oh,
was
they
like,
do.
no, don't take away my thing. I want my little thing. I want my little feelies to be mad at you.
Yes.
And then that just made it
Yes.
so much worse. And yeah, like my buddy Carl Angel Spit, Australian guy. He's again huge influence on me, and it's weird that he's like my best friend now. Like put something out just to say like, Brian's here, he's safe, because I was freaking out. I'd flew to LA, and and saying that I'm here and safe like ruined him. Like he had to cancel the tour, he was gonna go back out, like
And
uh I mean, that's maybe a deprogrammed exclusive. Angel Spit was gonna come back, y'all. But now he's doing an amazing thing. You should all check out called Ice Planet 9000. I think it's his best material. It's Angel Spit was a very yelly. You can see a lot of influence on my own sound. But he's kind of doing this Jean Michel Jarre out in space wooey wooey scooey thing. And it's technical term wooey wooey scooey.
okay. I don't
And it's just real kind of spacey, new agey kind of synthesizer sounds. And it's great for work if you need to program or something like that. Highly recommend Ice Planet 9000. But it's like for all the purported love that your side of the aisle seems to have, you sure want my blood. Like, wow, it was just wild. Like, I, it's just wild. Like, I don't think anybody would actually ever come at me physically because that would involve getting up off the couch.
Yeah.
But certainly trying to take away my career, and you know, I'm clawing it back. But Ligerhawk Records just put out an amazing album from a new signer named James Netterwald. Check it out. It's called The New Album. Guy and his guitar, and it's if you like uh sad Weird Al. I don't know. It's great. It's great. It's very heartfelt stuff. Like I've only been able to listen to it a few tracks at a time. It's like it's very sad. Um, uh, but yeah, it. I'm in a like I'm in a pretty amazingly good place. Like for all my griping, like Information Society just shared the last Space Couch they did. Like they had a big hit you might know in the 80s, like I wanna know what you're thinking.
Oh
There
yeah.
was some they just shared my last episode of
What?
Space Couch. I know.
That's awesome.
Because Hate Department had done some guitar work on one of their albums, and I had to ask him about it. And he told this crazy story about how like the guy flew out to his place in Indiana, and like there was like a cop in Indiana where the Hate Department lives that was like gonna fake arrest Kurt Harlan while he was out roller skating in a cornfield because he was a fan, and they're gonna set up this fake arrest. And so it's like, okay. There was a story where the guy from Information Society was rollerblading through a cornfield, roller skating because he's weird, I guess. And a cop set up a fake arrest to meet him. Like that's amazing. Like, and so you get these crazy stories on Space Couch, and then that would have never happened without this whole thing. So it's like my dumb show they tried to take away is now, as of like yesterday, bigger than it's ever been ever. So it's like it's
I
going
love
really
that, Brian. I love it. It's like those silver linings that we talked about. I mean, I'm sure you've heard this analogy before too, but during a cancellation and all the cowardly people fall away,
well. Yeah.
or the people who just they don't have a strong character, they can't weather it with you or what have you. But it's like weeding your garden, which I was doing today. Uh, you weed your garden and then you get rid of those weeds and more flowers grow, right? So the flowers that you want to grow, and you get these stronger. I think you're going to make even more friends and people who are really who don't give a shit about this at all, or who do and see and they can see it for what it is. They can see that you didn't do anything other than have
Yeah,
somebody come on a show to talk to you.
and the,
So,
the weeds never go away, but they do try less when they
yeah.
see they can't win. Look, I'm seeing it now. Like it's kind of wild. But we'll see what happens next. Like it's a crazy fight, and like I'm excited again. Now that I'm sort of on the other side of that weird bone
Yeah.
werewolf thing. I'm gonna go howl at the moon or something.
I love that. Okay, I've got you guys all of Brian's links below. Please go and check out the latest episode of Space Couch. You can find it below. The new album Crash and Burn and Burn and Burn from Gasoline and Invertebrate is also linked below. And Brian, I wish you the best.
Well,
Thank
we'll
you for
talk
being
later
here.
on Space Couch. All
We'll
right.
talk later. Take care.
Very excited. All right. Bye.
Bye.